All right, good afternoon and welcome back to the advisory group, our advisory group members and other members of the public who are joining us after a very interesting meeting this morning of our advisory group. And we are now getting ready to conduct the first of two regulatory workshops this afternoon. This is probably the first of several regulations that will be developed by the Bureau in response to AB 471. That's the bill by Assembly Member Evan Lowe out of the Bay Area that attempts to, is promoting a number of different changes to the bar's business and its regulatory responsibilities. So we're going to start that off in just a few minutes. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Patrick Doré, more formally, Chief of the Bureau of Automotive Repair, and I will facilitate some aspects of the reg workshop today, but we also have a couple of other individuals who need to be singled out. Sarah Arani and Ann Fisher are co-moderators, so they will help with opening up comments for the public, transitioning, if there's any other speakers other than the one presenter, they'll help with that. And just overall kind of facilitation of today's meeting. We also have our webcaster, Mike Sanchez from the Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you to all of those individuals who that I've just mentioned. Let's continue with kicking off this presentation. We've got a fairly brief presentation of the regulations that will be done by Matthew Gibson, who is a Program Manager 1 in our Enforcement Operations branch. Matt, I assume you are here and there you are.
I am here, and thank you, Pat.
Yes, thank you, and good luck, and I'll pass the baton officially to you for the presentation.
Thank you. And as I said, or as you said, Matthew Gibson, I'm a program manager in the Bureau's Enforcement Operations branch, and I'm here to discuss the proposed storage fee and automotive repair dealer regulation that would govern how and when an automotive repair dealer may charge for the storage and safekeeping of a motor vehicle. I did do a presentation on this subject at the October 2018 Bureau Advisory Group meeting through the passage of Assembly Bill 2392. And that bill, which was authored by Assemblyman Santiago, made changes to 3 vehicle code sections that set a standard for reasonableness of daily storage rates and presumptively unreasonable storage fees. So since that time, I've traveled throughout the state in person and virtually, giving presentations about storage fees to auto body groups and insurance companies. I've also fielded hundreds of phone calls from consumers, automotive repair shops, and insurance companies regarding their questions on this. And with the passage of Assembly Bill 471, BAR's authority over storage fee issues has been further clarified with the change made to Business and Professions Code Section 98416, which now makes registration with BAR a prerequisite for an automotive repair dealer to charge storage fees in accordance with applicable laws. So I put this PowerPoint together so that you can follow along as I read the proposed text. And I should say that obviously this is a rough draft, which is intended to solicit input. And we do anticipate there will be changes based upon our discussion today, as well as other internal staff discussions at DCA and at BAR. So the purpose of the regulation is to clarify BAR's additional authority to address storage fee issues as provided for in Assembly Bill 471, codify BAR's guidance to the automotive repair industry regarding storage fees, and bring together existing laws governing storage fees from the Business Professions Code, Civil Code, and Vehicle Code under one unified regulation. So this proposed regulation text would create a new article, an Article 6.1, and a new California Code of Regulations, which would be 3351.8 for storage fees, and would say that prior to any authorized repairs, an automotive repair dealer may charge storage fees when receiving possession of a motor vehicle for storage and safekeeping, as referenced in Section 3068.1 of the Civil Code. A2, when an automotive repair dealer charges fees for the storage and safekeeping of a motor vehicle as a result of an accident or a vehicle theft recovery, they shall charge those fees in accordance with Section 22524.5 of the Vehicle Code as related to the reasonableness of storage-related rates and fees and daily storage charges, and Section 3068.1 of the Civil Code as related to the imposition of daily storage charges. B1 would say the following the completion of any authorized repair, an automotive repair dealer may charge storage fees for an unpaid repair debt after the customer has provided an invoice, or 15 days after the authorized repairs are completed, whichever occurs first is referenced in Section 3068 of the Civil Code. And B2 would say to charge storage fees due to an unpaid debt, the automotive repair dealer shall have A, which is obtain the customer's authorization as specified in Section 3351.1 of the California Code of Regulations for the specified repairs being performed. B, generate an invoice with all repair work performed and parts supplied upon completion of the authorized repairs. And C, notify the customer in written or electronic form and or with a posted sign that is displayed in a place and manner conspicuous to all customers of the facility storage rates and policies. E3, when an automotive repair dealer charges storage fees due to completed repairs resulting from an accident or a vehicle theft recovery, they shall charge those fees in accordance with Section 22524.5 of the Vehicle Code as related to the reasonableness of storage-related rates and fees and daily storage charges. B4, an automotive repair dealer shall not charge storage fees while the vehicle is undergoing repairs, including the teardown of a vehicle or part in accordance with Section 3353 of the California Code of Regulations. And B5, upon completion of authorized repairs, an automotive repair dealer shall not dismantle, disengage, remove, or strip from the vehicle any of the parts used to complete the repairs as referenced in Section 3068 of the Civil Code. And that is the completion of the text.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. I was told everyone it would be brief, and you held us to my word, or kept my word there. So thank you very much for doing that. Let's see if we can get any comments, or if that sparked any comments or questions from, we'll start with the Bar Advisory Group members, because they're showing up here as panelists, those who have returned for the workshops. Any questions, comments? Do I see hands raised? Looking for that feature on the WebEx. I did. Hold on quickly. See Jack Maladona with the California Auto Body Association. Welcome back, Jack.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt, for the presentation. And I do agree this is an important regulation for the industry as well as consumers. I think I agree this is going to clarify AB 471. And it's going to bring together the existing laws. I think it's going to be helpful for consumers and repair shops and insurance companies to bring all the code sections within one regulation, and then it also codifies some existing policies and court cases. One of them is, not charging for storage fees while the car is being repaired or during a teardown. I do have some comments, and I think it's probably easier just to go through the pages. Let's start with page 3 of your presentation. Not in order of importance, but I just wanted to highlight, I guess there's the three areas I want to comment on. The first one has to do with your reference to 3068.1 of the Civil Code. Now, I know there's another section, 3068, that some attorneys, some shops will conduct a lien sale under the 3068 and also 3068.1. My only comment with section 1 and 2 is that instead of just pigeonholing that it only applies to 3068.1, maybe, reference 3068 as well as a possibility, or just not reference it at all. So that would be my comment with regard to 3351.8.
Okay, and that's fair. I think that there's a difference between the A section and the B section of 3351.8, and obviously that A has to do with a shop that is not operating as a repair shop, but rather as a storage lot. And we've talked about this in other presentations that I've done, even back in October of 2018,
Right.
about the idea that a repair shop can operate like a storage lot, or they can operate like a repair shop, but they can't do both at the same time. 3068.1 seems to be where that would have fit. I will say that 3068.1 really talks about when a lien arises for somebody storing a vehicle, and it talks about a variety of scenarios, like for tow companies, storage lots, specifically those that do recovery or load salvage operations. I mean, I don't even know if it really should even be in there at this point. An earlier version of this did cover more about lien rights when a lien arises in a transaction, about filing for authorization to conduct lien sales. Honestly, this might even read better if there's confusion related to the civil code section, if it was removed from the reference altogether. I only say that because, like, for A1, I wouldn't lose anything, I think, if it ended at safekeeping, right? As opposed to referencing 3068.1. I think it was only in there for clarification.
Okay.
But I don't know if you feel like do you feel like it's confusing to have it in there, Jack?
Yeah, I do. I think I agree with you. I would put the period right after safekeeping. I mean, that would be my recommendation. Again, you can listen to other comments or input from DCA attorneys and all that, but I think there's no need to reference it. I think just because part of it is you're just codifying existing law. You're not changing existing law. You're just trying to codify it. And I don't think the reference really matters. So I agree with you. I'd stop it at safekeeping.
Okay.
The next comment is on section, let's see, it's the next page on page 4. B1. Yeah, so there's a reference of 15 days there, and this is post, I guess this is post repairs, after the repairs have been performed. This is what you're dealing with here. So the car's been repaired, and this applies to any automotive repair dealer, not necessarily an auto body, but any repair shop out there. Under current law, there's no limit. There's no time limit in terms of charging for storage. What normally happens is when the car is ready to be picked up, the automotive repair dealer contacts the consumer and says, "Hey, your car is ready to be picked up." And so there's usually a grace period, a day or two, to pick up the vehicle. And usually in the paperwork, we call the backer language, there'll be some language in there that says, if you don't pick up your vehicle within 48 hours or 72 hours, we'll start charging storage. And it's an incentive for consumers to come and pick up their car. Obviously, the shop wants the consumer to pick up the car so they can get paid. And so right now, under current law, like I said, there's nothing that prohibits a shop from charging a customer the day after. The way this now reads is that the shop can't charge storage. It has to wait basically 15 days if they cannot contact the consumer. And this occurs where the consumer just can't be found or whatever, for whatever reason, the consumer's gone. You can't contact the consumer. So now this seems to me that this really changes current law and really is, I think it's kind of unreasonable for the shop to have to wait 15 days if they can't contact the consumer to be able to charge storage. So I guess I'm raising that as a concern because I think this does change. This doesn't codify current law. It actually changes current law and changes the statute. And I think, frankly, to try to do this would require statutory authority. I don't think you can do it under reg. But in any event, I wanted to raise that as an issue.
I will say, I think you might. Okay, so again, I talked about the idea that there was another version that had additional information in it related to when a lien arises in a transaction. Actually, Civil Code 3068 is specifically related. Well, I believe it shows or demonstrates when a lien arises in an automotive repair transaction. As a matter of fact, most of B1 is specific to that. Like when you completed the repairs and you provide them with a copy of the invoice, or 15 days after the authorized repairs are completed. Now that we're not talking about liens in this and we're focused on storage fees, you're probably right. I don't know that asking a shop not to charge storage for 15 days after they lost contact with their customer is reasonable. I don't know if something else is reasonable, and maybe I could put that out to the group and see if they think there's something it should say or shouldn't say. But yeah, 15 days may not apply in this situation anymore.
Okay. And then finally, my other comment has to do with page, I think it's page 5. It's C. Yeah, notify the so this you've got this is not codifying current law. It's actually changing current law. So if you wanted to, you have to notify. The way this reads now is that the ARD needs to notify the consumer of their storage charges in a verbal authorization or electronic authorization. So currently, when consumers, in fact, we went through this discussion this morning when there was a presentation on the complaint process, you have to get certain things via verbal authorization. You know, when you do revise the estimate, you got to get the person's name, telephone number, date, time, and all that. Now, this is the way this reads is now you have to provide them with this, you know, additional information. So that changes really, you're changing 3353.1. I mean, I don't know if that's going to require, you know, a modification to that regulation. And I don't think that was the intent here, but that's my comment here. I think that's, and there are other provisions, by the way, that the shop does have, not only what they charge in storage, because that usually is in the backer language, what we call backer language with their paperwork, along with other kinds of contractual provisions for, you know, warranty information maybe. They may have some other information about the ability to drive the vehicle. And so there's other kinds of provisions in there. So I think we're signaling or trying to point out that this is changing current law, I guess, with regard to oral authorizations. And that's number one. Number two, the second point I want to make is that you've got additional requirement about posted signs. And I know that needs, generally, that's specific statutory language. I know we have language like that in with regard to smog check and smog check signs and posting signs. Also in the brake and lamp area, you got to post certain signs. In fact, there is a vehicle code section I think you're familiar with, Matt. I think it's the 22651.071B, which actually says the opposite, that it provides an exemption for auto repair dealers. They don't have to post, you know, towing and storage, the signage. So I guess I've got a concern about C, the way it's written. It's not codifying existing law. It's actually making some major changes to the way the ARD would have to notify consumers that is not currently in law. So that's my comment there.
Okay, and I will say that this provision was included to initiate a conversation about whether its inclusion is appropriate or if it isn't inclusion, if it's not appropriate. I know where you're coming. I guess I know where your position is at the moment. But that also, if we decided it was appropriate, I mean, we were also trying to determine what form that would take. I threw everything in there that I thought would be how this would occur. I'm talking about the idea of written, if it was a written notification or electronic authorization, or not authorization, electronic notification or a posted sign. And you're right, if we wanted to say that you were going to be required to have a posted sign, we would have to come up with some sort of specification for the size of the sign and the size of the font, what it's supposed to say.
Exactly.
I would say that notification is not the same as authorization. An ARD is entitled to storage fees when they've met all these requirements of subsection B, whether the consumer agrees or not. The idea of notification, it follows along the same idea of keeping the customers informed or disclosure that are in other parts of our regulations, like 3353 for estimates and authorizations, or 3356 for invoices. I would say that storage fees most frequently seem to arise during auto body complaints. It seems like when I was working complaints or when I was involved in reviewing complaints, a significant percentage of the auto body industry is actually doing this already, maybe as a best practice. So I don't know. I'm just trying to, I'm putting it out there so we can get an idea of where you guys are at with it, so we can get feedback. Related to vehicle code section 2265.107, you're right. There's an exclusion in there for automotive repair dealers so that they don't have to post a sign It's actually a towing fees and access notice, and actually their tow company storage lots are supposed to have that notice. The sign is actually prescribed. It has a bunch of stuff on it. This sign, if we did a sign, would not be that sign, but point taken related to the vehicle code section.
Yeah, okay. And then I just want to say, I think it's really good that you've added 3, and then you've got section, it's on the next page, 4 and 5. I just wanted to highlight, or at least, that an automotive repair dealer should not charge storage fees while the vehicle is undergoing repairs, including a tear down. I think this is important because I know there's a court case that has really spelled this out, and so it is the law, but it's not in any other regulation. So I think it's important that you're spelling it out for, again, the automotive repair dealer, so they know what the law is here, because this is the way you've enforced it. And also for consumers out there, and for insurance companies or other stakeholders, they know what the law is. So I think that's important. So I'm glad that's in there. And then section 5 is current law as well. So overall, like I said, I think the regulation is positive. I think it's an important one, and really appreciate all your time and efforts and on this regulation. So thank you very much. Those are my comments and my questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Do we have comments from any other advisory group members? I see a couple of public attendees, so let me just one last call out to the advisory group. We can always circle back. There's no end to, well, 3:15, I guess, or 3 o'clock is when our goal is to end, but we can keep taking comments even after we adjourn today if something comes up. Let's move to our public attendees. Moderator, could you open it up for questions from those who are in the list of participants outside of the panelists?
Sure. This is the moderator. For members of the public who would like to make a comment, you can either click that Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand feature. I do see that we have a couple people with their hands raised, so I'll go in the order that I see them. We'll start with Jean Lopez. I'll go ahead and request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears. All right, you are unmuted.
Thank you, and welcome back. Whoa, I got a little echo going on. So I want to.
This is the moderator. It appears that you're logged in twice. You may want to close that second login that you're in. I think that's why you're echoing.
Okay, why don't you go to somebody else while I do this?
Okay. All right. In that case, Deanna, I will request to unmute your microphone. When the prompt appears, please click the unmute me button. All right, you are unmuted.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Deanna Latour-Harkeen. I am a legislative advocate for the Personal Insurance Federation of California, or PIF. We're a statewide trade association that represents 7 of the national largest property and casualty insurance companies, and we collectively write a majority of personal lines auto insurance in California. And so just want to thank you for putting out this, this workshop and this draft regulation. We understand and support the Bureau's interest in clarifying storage fees practices at auto body repair facilities. And as you said, Matt, I think for the most part in surveying our members, many ARDs are, acting in good faith to make sure that, that they are kind of complying with best practices in the space, I think you said you're doing a lot of this already. But we do have 3 kind of comments or concerns about the draft and hope to be able to work through them as this process continues.
Okay. Sarah, can I get the slides back?
One moment. Let me pass over host role again, or presenter role.
And I'm only doing that so I can.
Yeah.
That's the wrong presentation.
That makes sense.
It's the next presentation.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. Let me take back presenter status real quick and flip back. There we go. Okay, let me. There you are.
All right. And I only did that so that I can pull
Yeah.
up the parts that you wanted to talk about. So please go ahead.
That makes sense. Yeah, so subsection B1, or so first we'll start with subsection B1, which has to do with kind of unpaid repaired debt or storage fees related to if there's unpaid repair debt. So in the insurance practice, we've learned that, it's pretty common for insurers and ARDs to disagree on an ARD's estimated cost of repair after an accident. They have one thought process of what the payment should be. Insurers may have another. And California Code of Regulations 2695.8 allows kind of for this process to happen and for insurers to provide a copy of what they will pay. And we think this is an important backstop to keep costs from being inflated or unnecessary repairs from being completed. And so, we think that this section, maybe in the most unscrupulous kind of ways could be used by ARDs to claim that, after a repair is completed, that the difference between their estimate and the insurer's estimate is an unpaid repair debt, and charge storage fees until an insurer until an insurer's payment is rendered to their initial estimate. I don't believe or think that was kind of an intention of this section, but we would think that at least acknowledging the California Code of Regulations and that process could just kind of provide an important backstop to make sure that doesn't that there's not confusion about what an unpaid repair debt is.
What
And I want to
section
say,
is that, Deanna?
Yeah, and I will provide written comments after this meeting. I just was working on.
and she was referring to a section within like the Fair Practices Act. Right,
Yes,
Deanna?
yes, I was.
Okay.
That's the.
Pat wants it.
Oh yeah, it's 2695.8, and then it's specifically section F, and it describes a process where there's a few ways that insurers can say we don't think that's an accurate cost of what we'd want to provide, and then there's a few options of what we can do. We can say, hey, our insurer, this other shop will provide it at a rate that we would want to pay, or we can say, hey, here's the cost of this. Here's what we think this is going to cost, and we kind of can have an agreement on that. So
given your scenario, I'm trying to envision that. Okay, so from our perspective, right, the authorization for the repairs would have occurred before they started, and that would be the contract that the repair shop was held to until such time as there was additional authorization obtained from the customer, and then that work was done. At the completion of those repairs and the presentation of the invoice to the consumer when they completed the authorized work, that would be theoretically when a lien would arise in the transaction. But if the customer isn't picking up the car, then the shop would charge storage fees. It sounds like you're talking about is a difference between an authorized amount from a consumer or a contracted amount with a consumer and a estimate from an insurance company, if you think about it we're always trying, when it comes to auto body, one of our primary goals is trying to establish the method of repair. Ultimately, the method of repair would be what everybody agrees how the car was supposed to be fixed. Yeah. Okay. And so usually I'm trying to figure out what did the customer authorize, what did the repair shop agree to, and what did the insurance company generate? Anyway, the point I'm making about this triangle that makes the three-party transaction is that from our perspective, that if the customer authorized it and the work was done, that was what the contract was, and that would be the invoice that would be provided at the completion of the job. But it sounds like you're talking about a scenario where the estimate from the insurance company is different than the authorized amount, and that the shop would hold the car for the difference in that the customer's amount was more than the insurance company?
Yeah, so say an insurer, a auto body repair shop says, this is the dollar amount that we want to charge. The insurer can then provide and say, hey, this is actually what we think this should cost. There's like a delta between the two. And I guess in your case, maybe for the most, I kind of in the best practices space, and I understand that it's about kind of an authorized repair that, then the consumer would take on that cost. But I think we would just want to have some clarity that there is this process, and that in that case, we're not on the hook for these storage fees.
I see. Well, one other quick question I'm going to ask you. You brought up the term unpaid repair debt. I don't know if that's the best way to say that. Maybe there's another term. I don't know if that term itself is causing a concern for you particularly or not.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, and I think, and I don't know if that's defined kind of separately in statute, or that actually was very specifically the comment from my folks, is that that's not a well-defined
term
and brings some heartburn.
Like an unpaid invoice or an outstanding balance, and honestly, we can come up with something that would make more sense. I don't want to put something in that's causing confusion.
Yeah, and I'm happy to, our folks, I don't have any like specific amendments, but happy to continue to generate that and see if that's a word that, it's a very specific issue and a very subsetted issue of one. So, and that was the term that was bringing the most concern around the lack of definition on unpaid repair debt. So.
Okay.
All
right.
Matt, I think you kind of touched upon unpaid repair invoice or something along those lines.
An unpaid invoice or an outstanding balance or something. We can come up with something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then the two other comments actually. Subsection A1 So it obviously normalizes the practice of charging storage fees prior to beginning a repair, and PIF is concerned that ARDs may cite this as a basis for kind of additional storage fees being charged before an insurer can inspect a repairable vehicle and a customer can authorize repairs. And so again, I think in probably the more kind of unscrupulous space, we've seen instances of ARDs delaying inspections, not being available for us to come to shops and look at the vehicles. And so and California Civil Code, which I know you've debated about just kind of removing in general. I think the term like storage and safekeeping is not necessarily well defined. And we're just kind of worried about that delayed repair. And we just think there should be kind of a more clearly defined about how and who will resolve matters of delay. That's probably in the gray area of, maybe we have a claim or an instance of like, we've called this shop 6 times and, we're trying to get to the space. They're not allowing us to access this vehicle. Who would we in that case come to and rectify that situation with?
So are you talking in the scenario you're laying out, are you talking about at the point that an insurance company is trying to retrieve a vehicle that's a total loss?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Or just even inspect that it is a total loss.
See, because I'm pretty sure that there's some stuff within 22524.5 specific to allowing access to insurance representatives for the inspection of the vehicle.
What was the code section? Sorry.
Vehicle code section 22524.5.
225.
It goes into like really weird specifics about the fact that if they say they're busy, they can allow you access for some like 15 minutes out of every hour.
Yeah, no, I am aware of that. Yeah. So I think, and I know you have a section, I'm trying to pull up the regulations right now, where you, talk about, accidents and, the vehicles in an accident. So maybe just a stronger citation to, our allowance to be able to get into, a storage shop may alleviate some concerns about those storage fees being charged.
I'm just wondering if maybe another way to deal with it is just put a whole other section about a shop not delaying, obstructing, or.
Yeah, no, and that may go into my final comment very nicely. So I think one overarching kind of question or concern I got from my folks is that this regulation it doesn't address a persistent lack of certainty around kind of what is considered reasonable behavior. So I think in relation to delays, so if a vehicle is delayed, I feel like maybe a secondary section about here is the practice for allowing insurers to, here is what is reasonable delay and here is what is not reasonable delay for access. And then I think secondarily for our folks, you reference Santiago bill and some specific vehicle codes that talk about reasonableness around just general fees. And, our folks have had, and again, usually in the most kind of unscrupulous areas, not with the normal best practice shop, have had concerns about knowing, what is a reasonable fee, a storage fee, who we're supposed to go to try to dispute these types of storage fees. I've talked with Jack quite a bit about this from his clients, about, that's a concern of ours. And, is 200 a reasonable fee in Los Angeles? Is it a reasonable fee in, Bakersfield? There's differences in what that standard is. And I understand that y'all, if you're trying to establish reasonableness internally, we'll kind of survey shops and see what everybody is charging, but that's not really an opaque process for how insurers can even know if something's reasonable, or any kind of backstop of us being able to give any input on reasonableness. So I think that's more of just an overarching concern about if we're opening up regulations in this space, how could we put more parameters around reasonableness of fees and delays?
I don't know how we would do it with this regulation because the reasonableness is defined within the vehicle code.
Well, isn't it defined as kind of, now you're testing me here, but in a good way. No, not in a good way. No, I think it's like market rate of the area.
You're talking about the
talking about the statute.
The storage rates are the same locale?
Yeah, storage rates are the same locale. And
yes.
I don't know if this has to happen in this regulation. This is more about storage fees that might be, but what is kind of a locale? How is that process looked at? I feel like if there was some more opaqueness not opaqueness, that's the opposite of it. If there was more clarity in how that process was being defined, even I would think alleviate probably 97 to 98% of the concerns from my folks about kind of fees specifically. So,
okay.
Yeah, but those are my comments. And yeah, like I said, I think we generally believe that this is a promising step forward, and we look forward to continuing conversations and providing more details about kind of following up on those specifics with y'all.
Thank you.
All right, let's moderator, if we could. Thank you, Deanna, for the comments. Let's go back to Jean Lopez. Hopefully the audio difficulties have been worked out. Are you there, Jean?
Yes, I think I've worked them
let's
out.
go back.
Yeah. So, and Deanna, thank you for your comments, and as well as Matt, thank you for your presentation. So I think reasonableness comes up when we're looking at a vehicle in any one of our locations that has been totaled. And the reasonable storage fee comes into play when would be the opposite of what Deanna had mentioned, in that we can sometimes wait 10, 15 days for an insurance company to come out and inspect a vehicle that's been noted as a total loss. And that's where our concern is, because, we're not on acres of property where we can store a vehicle for 2, 10, or 15 days. I mean, we're limited to the amount of space on our properties. And it's kind of incentive, if you will, for an insurer to come out, review that total loss vehicle promptly, and get that vehicle off of our property. And when a reasonable storage fee is something less than, say, perhaps $75, there's no incentive for that insurance company to come out, because it's doesn't cost that much to keep it on our property. But if the fee was 150 or even as much as 200, as Deanna noted, then I think there is a big incentive for an insurer to come out and inspect that vehicle as a total loss vehicle and get it off the property. So I think there's some concerns there with us when it comes to reasonable fees and what is going to be noted as a reasonable fee. In the effect of a vehicle that has been repaired, and as Jack noted, the vehicle's repaired, we do come up sometimes against a large deductible, say perhaps a $1,000 or $1,500 deductible, and sometimes that may take a paycheck or two, right? And when you're looking at a couple of pay periods, that might be 3 weeks or even 4 weeks before a person can come in and pay their deductible, their $1,000 deductible, to recover their vehicle. And we're pretty gracious about that. We understand we understand the economics of today. So as Jack mentioned, 48 hours, 72 hours, that happens a lot and all the time. And as a reputable company, we're not gonna begin those storage fees based on that. But when it comes to beyond 30 days, beyond 15 days, I think that there should be the ability to begin charging some type of a storage fee. And as I said, our company is going to be as reasonable as possible when it comes to matters like a large deductible.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will say, so right now, obviously the charging of storage fees is a may, not a shall, right? You have the choice to charge storage fees or you choose not to. I will also tell you that in my hundreds of phone calls with automotive repair dealers and insurance companies and consumers, insurance companies have a lot to say about repair shops, and repair shops have a lot to say about insurance companies. And you all have very similar feelings about each other.
Yes, we do.
All right. So I don't know if, and I feel like you're kind of hitting on the idea of that 15 days that was in B1, and whether you think that should go, whether it should stay or go, or whether you feel like it should be adjusted in some way. You feel like it should be something or it should be nothing? I mean, if we did away with it entirely, or if we did away with B1 entirely and just went, because in some ways, I don't know if B1 might actually be redundant to B2 in some ways. Storage fees would just be imposed at the point that you've generated an invoice. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, Gene, as far as the reg.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, and I don't know that it's a regulation, but most repair facilities post a storage fee. They post labor fees, they post material fees, and storage fees. So there's not a time limit on ours, but there definitely is a storage fee. So looking at this following completion.
Did we lose Gene?
No, I was reading this again. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we could stop at unpaid repair invoice, final invoice. Yeah, I don't. I don't necessarily agree with the 15 days, but in a DRP environment, Matt, it's not very unlikely for us to wait 15 days. And a DRP contract, we give up a concession that we won't charge storage fees. It's just part of doing business in an agreement environment. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Gene. Moderator, are there any other comments from members of the public?
Hey, Pat, I want to echo what Gene has said. I look at some of our facilities for many of our members, and they have limited parking, limited storage. And even try and get your head around 15 days after the invoices, everything is approved, everything is done, the car is ready. We have some stores, not in California, that I've dealt with that we basically had a 72-hour rule. If you don't pick it up within 72 hours, we're going to move it to a storage lot and we're going to charge you whatever the going rate is at that storage lot. And it's the only way. Give you a perfect example. Some of the stores I dealt with for Bridgestone in Hawaii, we actually had remote lots that after we had 7 cars in the parking lot, we had to go and ferry the cars back and forth between a remote lot. And so to even get my head around figuring storage for 15 days, I think I'm in agreement that it stops once everything is done and the vehicle is ready to be picked up. You need to come get it. And if you can't, then you have to agree to whatever the fees are going to be for that business to be able to store that vehicle until you can come retrieve it.
All right, thank you. Moderator, do we have any comments from the public? Additional comments from the public?
Yes, so our next individual who's requested to make a public comment is Mark Sectan. So Mark, I will be requesting to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device. All right, and you are unmuted.
This is Mark Segnan with the American Property Casualty Insurance Association. I want to associate my comments with those of Deanna from the Personal Insurance Federation of California, and also with her challenge to work together on some of these things. I know that what I think Deanna was trying to say is if there's a dispute between the body shop and the insurer on what the final payment is, we don't want to have a situation where the body shop can start charging storage fees in order to provide leverage to get the bill paid in their favor as opposed to the insurer's favor. So that's just one of the issues that our members brought up that we need to kind of work through. Thank you.
Okay, so, and I just will hold up for you split. I want to make sure I understand, I get what you're trying to say. It's like, from our perspective, there's an invoice and it would be the authorized amount that the customer, provide authorization for. So but you're talking about a different scenario to that. You're talking about something else, right?
We're talking about a situation where there's a dispute on the amount that needs to be paid. We also have concerns on the front end that a body shop could just let a car sit on their lot for a period of time until they get to it, and that may not be appropriate for storage fees.
And I want to make sure I understand. So if a vehicle arrives at their facility, like it's just towed in and it just sits there on their lot, you don't want them to be able to charge storage fees even though they're not contracted for repairs.
Well, there maybe needs to put some type of limit on it. If the car sits there for a month and they've made no effort to contact the owner or figure out what's going on and the car is just racking up storage fees, that's probably not in the that's probably not very consumer friendly.
Okay. Was there anything else on these that I could help or go over with you?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to our next individual who's requested public comment. Individual identified as Jesse Parks. Jesse, I will request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device. All right, and you are unmuted.
Thank you. Jesse Parks. I manage several organizations in Sonoma and San Francisco counties. And first of all, I'm thoroughly impressed. This is the first meeting that I've sit on, and I really appreciate the time that everybody has put into this. I think that there's been great thought process. The 15 days, I think, is we want to notify our customer. We want to be fair to the consumer, but again, we want to be fair to the shop. That's we want to make sure that we do identify that this is a place that we have to pay rent for. That if your car's left here, that you are gonna be charged storage. But to put a time limit on it, I think, and certain restrictions when I can't put a time on my rent, I can't, my landlord, wants me to pay them on time, and a lot of these places are quite costly to operate. Just to give you an idea, in San Francisco we have a 50,000 square foot facility. The rent is about $100,000 a month. We have another facility that is 20,000 square feet and it's $49,000 a month. In Sonoma County, part of, we have a 10-acre campus. And, it's always, we really work hard to be diplomatic with our insurance friends and partners. But, I think, Matt, you nailed it on the head when you said, we generally feel pretty differently. And, lately what we've seen is not that we're not allowing somebody access to the shop. We're not preventing. In fact, we're going out of our way to call and try to get people out. And we're constantly getting praise for that, for letting them know, because we do have a lot of partners that we want to work well with. But to give you just one example, I have a 75-year-old lady that has a Toyota Prius Prime and has an insurer. I won't say which one, but the car's been here for 49 days. The customer told me yesterday that I needed to do more. I've made at least not less than 10 phone calls. I've dealt with supervisors. Yesterday, she also informed me that she was going to a doctor because she was so stressed out about it. Now, this is an extreme, but it is more of the rule than the exception. Right now, we are seeing so many delays on insurance companies, and when we work so hard to produce a repair that is quality and give our customer the service that they deserve, and we have a facility that we have to pay for, and there's absolutely no urgency from the insurance company. Again, I got to say, that's the rule. The exception may be, a shop that says, hey, park it out back and let's not tell them. I'm sure it happens. But right now, the insurance companies are understaffed. Whatever the problem is, and we feel for them, but, we're having a hard time getting techs too. We make our job work. So, I mean, that's what I would just caution. And, the other thing when it comes to not agreeing on the repair bill, this is something I've always felt really strongly about. The insurance companies often, even in the state of California, love to dictate how a repair should be. And sometimes we have really, really good collaborative discussions. But there's zero liability on the insurer. Many times they've taken little to zero training, while we have spent tens or sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars on our training, our certifications, our tooling, and our understanding how to properly repair a vehicle. And, somebody that may or may not have a lot of time on the job or a lot of training will give us their opinion on how a car should be repaired. And again, we try to get to the finish line very diplomatically, but a lot of times those are the disagreements that come up. It's not about an aftermarket fender or an aftermarket bumper. That's on your policy. That's the insurance you bought. But it's what needs to be done to this car so the next time that it crashes, somebody inside doesn't possibly die. And there's a lot of insurance companies that are poorly informed right now. And I want to make sure, I appreciate PIF and I know what they do. And, Deanna and Mark, I understand that we're on the opposite side of this, but we really have to, adjust both of our ends. And it's really important that you guys understand what we're trying to do in repairing a vehicle, and that it costs a lot of money for us to be doing what we're doing properly.
Okay.
And that's all I have. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
No problem. I just want to verify one thing. You had a comments based on other comments that were provided as opposed to the text, but basically one of the things I took from you is that you think the 15 days is not a reasonable amount of time to have to wait to charge storage.
Well, again, most of the time we're not going to charge a consumer. If somebody has repaired a car with us and they're having a hard time getting down there, we're going to tell them, hey, look, we're really trying to avoid storage. But if they're a good customer, we really don't want to take their money after they've given us their patronage. But sometimes when we have to go down that route, there should be a clear explanation. But it's really, in my opinion, it's the shop's choice. I personally would do everything I could to not hit my customer with the storage bill after we've repaired their car. But with clear identification, with clear signs like we have all over our shop, and explaining the process and putting it on the repair order, the customer's aware when they leave our shop that if they don't pick up their car, they're going to pay storage. You know, again, when they've spent their money with us, and you know, if they come on some hard times, we try to work with them, you know, as we do with insurers sometimes. But really, that's our business decision to make. And you know, we try to do the right thing, but again, we pay a lot of money to operate in an arena where it's there's a lot that you have to do these days to properly repair a car, and we have so much liability that, you know, we're entitled to our processes.
Okay, thank you, Jesse.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Moderator, other comments from the public? We have about 5 minutes till the close of the hour, but we can probably go up until about 3:10. And then we'll have to kind of close it in preparation for our next scheduled workshop. Moderator, do you have other hands raised in the public section?
This is the moderator. I see another hand raised from Gene Lopez again. I'm going to confirm that he wishes to speak again. So Gene, I will request to unmute your microphone.
Yeah, hi. Thank. Yeah, and Jesse, welcome to these meetings. And Matt, back to Deanna and Mark and what they may have been referring to, and I'll keep this short. It could be, Matt, that a vehicle comes into our collision center, and we write up a preliminary estimate, and we submit that to the insurance company, and the insurance company doesn't agree with that amount, so we opt not to repair that vehicle. At that point, it's possible that a repair facility would begin storage fees to have that vehicle moved out. That may be what Deanna was speaking to. I'm not sure, but you seem to be like scratching your head like, well, when would this occur? You know, there's a final bill, isn't there? And no, there's not, right?
I think, and I appreciate it. Yeah, you're right. I'm not really scratching my head because I kind of have a feel for what she's saying, but I guess I'm also trying to say, like, look, the customer's the customer. The invoice is generated based on the authorized amount, and that's the standard bar uses to determine what was supposed to have been done.
Yes, but in this case, it would be a final invoice was never created because the vehicle was never repaired.
If in your situation you're describing where you generate an estimate, it depends on where you started. So, like, for example, if you got an authorization to do a teardown estimate, and in this situation, right, the teardown is to disassemble the vehicle to a condition where you can generate an itemized estimate to restore the vehicle to a pre-loss condition, and you do so, and you generate an itemized estimate, and you present it to your customer, well, then you have got authorization for a specific repair, which was a teardown. You completed the work and you provided it to your consumer. Well, then yeah, you can start charging storage at that time, but you can't charge storage retroactively to when the vehicle arrived.
No, yeah, agreed. And it may be, so we have to submit that estimate after the teardown. We have an estimate. We submit it to the consumer, but we also submit it to the insurance company to get their approval, right?
Well, of course, and I agree. I know.
And sometimes they may not agree, and at that point, we may say, well, we can't fix the vehicle then, and come get your car, or we'll begin storage fees.
Okay.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Gene. Nikki literally raised her hand.
We do a lot of extended warranty repairs, and we're finding that those companies now are starting to delay payment. And I think that by putting that 15 days in there, it'll cause those companies not to want to pay their clients' bills out to the 15 days. And of course, we don't release the vehicle until we're paid. So I would like to see the 15 days go away or shorten up that period of time just because of that.
And that's a good point, and I appreciate the comment. I will also say, obviously, as I anticipated, we're focused on auto body when in fact this applies to all automotive repair transactions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Moderator, any other comments from the public before we circle back with the advisory group members? We're at the top of the hour.
It appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yeah, you can. Thank you. And then we'll circle back with the advisory group members. Nikki, you raised your hand. We'll go to Dave Kusa next.
Thanks, Pat. Just some clarity on Nikki's question. So because we run into that too. So the after the customer has provided an invoice, right? So we've completed repairs, we've submitted the invoice to the customer, we've submitted the invoice to the warranty company. At that point in time, since everybody has an invoice, we could start charging storage. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Doing
Yeah,
that right
just to
now.
be clear on that, right? It's because it is or 15 days, right? So now,
Well,
with
and
that
this-
being said, right, if you can't get in touch with anybody, then you got to wait 15 days. But
Well, again, that has to do with the idea of when a lien arises in a transaction for automotive repair, and that's why I don't even know if it really fits in this scenario, and why I was asking if there's some other days that we would consider, but at the same time, yeah, it's
Thank you.
not going to work. Thank you, Dave. And by the way, you look very comfortable. And also, I noticed your cat earlier, and I was surprised how well she hung out and watched.
yeah, they get pretty interested. I got 2 of them with me now, so yeah.
Other advisory group members, thank you, Dave. Okay. Does not appear like we have any other hands raised. I think we'll get ready to adjourn this and get ready for our next workshop that'll start at 3:15 promptly. No one should log off. We'll just wait until the time to start. Let me remind everyone, this is just an ongoing process. This is the first of maybe a series of workshops as necessary, but certainly comments that come up as a result of the meeting today that you didn't think, or we ran out of time to ask or answer, and you didn't think of it, or something along those lines, just shoot us an email. Matt, you got the last slide with your
Ooh,
information?
Yes. There we go.
Send an email to Matt or pick up the phone. I think email's always good. He's a busy guy. So he'll get to your emails, obviously, probably much faster maybe even than a phone call if he's away from his desk. So keep in touch with us on this. Look forward to hearing from you. Any other last thoughts, Matt? We'll probably go back, reconvene with yourself and myself and the regs coordinator and a few others, and come up with our next draft for consideration. Our next iteration of this draft. Okay. All right, let's adjourn. We are now at 3:03 p.m. and we'll close this workshop, and in 12 short minutes, we'll start with our second of the 2 workshops. Thank you all for attending this one.